Ever since their inception, first-person shooters have become one of the most popular video game genres, and it's easy to see why. Playing a game in first person literally puts the player into the body and eyes of their character, and shooting is just a really straightforward gameplay loop. So much so that you can really stretch it to whatever suits you. Metroid Prime uses it to place a large emphasis on the puzzle-solving exploration of its world, where Destiny presents a very satisfying action-based combat system that even blends first-person and third-person together. But modern shooters are also very different from the kind that pioneered the genre. Long gone are the days of arena shooters dominating the market. Hero shooters, battle royales, and tactical shooters have become the new standard, or at the very least, a lot of the more popular ones currently fall under this umbrella. However, every now and then, a game comes around that breaks that mold. A game that encapsulates the spirit of older titles while infusing it with modern standards. Now, you've probably heard of Doom. Everybody has heard of Doom. My mom has, my dad has, your grandparents have, even your frickin' cat has heard of Doom. But if for some reason you still haven't, I'll give you a brief summary. Doom is one of the grandfathers of the first-person shooter genre as a whole. Not the first FPS game, but the one to set the standard and bring the genre into the public eye. You are the Doom Marine, or Doom Guy, and it's your job to stop the hellish invasion on Mars and kill every demon in your path. And that's kind of all there is to it. Doom is a very simple game, but it was addictive. Sporting a single-player campaign and even a PvP mode to blow up your friends, it really was the full package back then. Doom grew to span several more games, which all received generally positive to great reviews, but around the mid to late 2000s, right around here, Doom just sort of vanished. For over a decade, there would be no new mainline entry. That is, until 2016, when a sort of reboot for the series would arrive, simply titled Doom. Doom 2016 brought back the original energy and atmosphere to the gameplay that the classic Doom games had. Especially when compared to the AAA space, this game stood out. Oh, yeah, it also had a pretty decent soundtrack too, nothing crazy, but... And that brings us to 4 years later with Doom Eternal, which also happened to launch on the same day as Animal Crossing New Horizons. That period of social media was an out-of-body experience to say the least, but getting back to the topic at hand, you might be asking yourself, Zach, my name is Zach by the way, what could Doom Eternal have possibly done that much better than Doom 2016? And that, my dear viewer, is an excellent question. I want you to take a very good look at this shotgun, specifically at this part right here. Do you know what it's called? It's called the meat hook. More guns, more demons, grappling halfway across the map, dashing everywhere, blood punches, a frickin' energy sword that basically one-shots everything. If Tears of the Kingdom tuned the exploration sandbox as far as it would go, Doom Eternal did the same thing for its combat. This game relishes in the pure joy of being a video game. But what do I mean by that? Well, we've come a long way since the late 70s and early 80s. Games are more than just fun little toys now. They have been for a long time. They're works of art. They incorporate every medium into one. Some even place a heavy focus on immersion or realism. Doom Eternal, on the other hand, is incredibly video gamey, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. But before I begin going off on seemingly unconnected tangents, let's back it up to a starting point. At its core, Doom Eternal is a PvE arena shooter. After the events of Doom 2016, the forces of hell have invaded Earth, wiping out over half its population, and it's your job as the Doom Slayer to stop them. As far as combat goes, you jump around the map killing hordes of demons, constantly swapping between the right weapons for the job. Every demon is different and is designed to pressure the player in a multitude of ways. You've got your trash, like imps, soldiers, or even shield soldiers that require some type of plasma weaponry to get past their defenses. Moving up the hierarchy of pain a bit, there's whiplashes, pinkies, and pain elementals, each of which have unique ways of catching you with your pants down when you least expect it. But then you also have demons at the higher end, like tyrants, doom hunters, and marauders, enemies that require a clown car of bullets and strategy to take down. These are just a few of the enemy types you'll find throughout the base game, but there's even more horrors awaiting you in the DLC, which takes the utmost pleasure in knocking your pride down a peg or two just when you think you've gotten too good at the game. On their own, none of these demons are really too hard to handle mano a mano. But when they gang up on you with the family reunion from hell, that is a different story. But what about the Slayer himself? What do you have as the player to handle these nightmares? Everything you could possibly want. Chainsaw? Check. A plasma-based hell crossbow called the Ballista? Check again. A double-barrel super shotgun with a flaming meat hook to grapple towards enemies? Check, check, check. There are 8 different weapons that you can swap between at any time to eviscerate everything in your path. And they all have extra modifications to them as well. Do you want micro missiles as an alt fire for your heavy cannon, or a single high-powered precision bolt? Would you like to upgrade your meat hook to give you shields when you grapple to an enemy? The combat sandbox in Doom Eternal is incredibly vast and culminates in what is called the Doom Dance. And yes, I'm serious. Hugo Martin, the game director for Doom Eternal, actually calls it that. It's official. But basically, it's just the idea for the gameplay loop of Doom.
For any player who learns the Doom Dance, you're pretty much unstoppable. And that's what makes Doom Eternal so much fun. I think that once you figure out how to use all the tools, there's not much that you can't overcome.
You see, Doom is all about push-forward combat. Instead of hiding behind cover and taking pot shots at something, id Software wants you to run into the thick of it to get the resources you need. For example, do you want to quickly replenish your shields in the heat of combat? Well, one way is to use your flame belch on an enemy and then damage them to make the shields drop, because enemies that you set on fire drop shields. Do you need more ammo and there's no pickups left on the ground? Well, that's what your chainsaw is for. Killing any enemy with your chainsaw will drop ammo, but be careful, because the bigger the enemy, the more fuel you will need to be able to kill it with the chainsaw, and you'll only regenerate 1 pip of fuel when you're out. Every decision made in Doom Eternal is in service of the gameplay. And those aren't even my words anymore. A while back, Hugo Martin, that game director I just mentioned a second ago, did a full playthrough of Doom Eternal and its DLC live on stream. He spent a lot of time talking about the development of the game and answering community questions. For example, one of my favorite nerdy details he mentioned is about how the gameplay affected some of the art design. Doom Eternal is a very colorful game, especially compared to Doom 2016. And this is in large due to the speed of the combat. The game is so fast-paced that a lot of the visuals in the environment needed to be made large or bright so that people could actually see it and take note of it while playing.
Okay, so yellow cracks can only be opened by the environment, and this punch symbol, we turn it off, so that qualifies it as a secret. Cracks and symbols that don't have a lighting effect on them are considered secrets. We set up these kind of video game rules in the world that enable us to provide you with a very clear way of communicating to the player what it is we want them to see and do.
The team at id just seems incredibly confident in what they're doing, and it shows. And honestly, even if you have no intention of playing this game, or maybe you've already done everything there is to do in it, I recommend watching these streams, especially if you have any interest at all in creating video games. I've mentioned this a bit in the Breath of the Wild video a few weeks ago, but I nerd out over this stuff. I just love making things. Too many things, in fact. It's both a blessing and a curse, and it's why you haven't seen too many uploads on this channel yet. It's hard for me to focus all of my attention on one place, and I get easily overwhelmed with my workload. But listening to someone else discuss their creative process and their intentions, especially when it's something that turned out really good, is both incredibly fun and also insightful. I guarantee you can learn a lot from it. I know, because I did. Returning to the combat, however, guns aren't the only thing you have at your disposal. The movement and platforming sandbox is just as important as everything else. You have 2 charges of an air dash you can use at any time, which recharges almost immediately when you're walking on the ground. Pair that with literal monkey bars and gravity lifts littering the arenas throughout every mission in Doom Eternal, and you have yourself a recipe for a really good time. And I haven't even mentioned secondary mechanics like suit upgrades, rune power-ups, or collectibles. So let's do that now. Throughout the game, you can complete various challenges and extra combat encounters in each level to acquire weapon points. These bonuses are entirely optional, but you'll become a lot stronger a lot faster if you do them. You're also motivated by this nice little encounter bar becoming completely green. and you aren't playing Doom to skip combat, so stop being a pussy and get a little blood on your hands, huh? These weapon points can be used to upgrade your weapon mods for every weapon. Get both upgrades on a weapon and you'll unlock a final mastery challenge that, upon completion, will give you a third upgrade. But if that sounds too tedious, you can always collect mastery tokens that appear in the final levels of the game and skip any challenge you want. Every level in Doom Eternal also has a horde of collectibles to find. Suit tokens from the ghosts of your long-dead brothers can be used to upgrade your Praetor suit. Suit upgrades are split into 5 categories and can vary from improving your ice bomb or frag grenade to making it so explosive barrels in your environment don't deal damage to you. There's a wide variety of suit upgrades to get, and it really feels good when you have them all. Then we have runes. You can find runes scattered across certain levels, and these heavily augment your gameplay, and you can have up to 3 of them equipped at a time. For example, one allows you to slow down time if you use your weapon mod while airborne. This one is a personal favorite of mine for buying me some extra time to think about my next move, because on Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, you do not have time to think. Or there's one that makes you move way faster every time you perform a glory kill. Oh, yeah, by the way, there are glory kills. And then there's Sentinel Crystals. These act as a sort of level up. When you get a Sentinel Crystal, you can choose to upgrade your max health, shields, or ammo. And if you unlock 2 upgrades in the same category, you get a passive ability to go along with it. Okay, I think that just about covers the basics of gameplay. Well, kind of, but not really. You see this massive floating castle in space? This is the Fortress of Doom, and it's your new home. The Fortress of Doom acts as your hub for the whole game. You can listen to the latest happenings during the demonic invasion on the radio for some reason, practice your demon slaying, and even acquire some of the upgrades like weapon mods, sentinel crystals, or even different outfits for the Doomslayer by collecting sentinel batteries throughout the game, like this one, based on the classic Doom Guy outfit. But that's not all, folks. Every level also has an assortment of fun collectibles, toys based on all the enemies and characters in the game, which is then displayed in Doom Guy's insane gamer room and can be used to view the 3D models of every enemy in the game, or cheat codes in the shape of floppy disks that you can use in Mission Select either for fun or to steamroll levels to get collectibles you missed. You can also find a variety of different records in the game which can be used to listen to the music of past id Software titles back in the Fortress. There's an insane amount of stuff to collect that's honestly just really cool. Does any of this stuff need to be here? No, of course not, but I'm so happy that it is, and it adds to the experience. For crying out loud, you can even play the first 2 Doom games in their entirety on the old school PC next to the main gaming setup in Doom Guy's room. The first one unlocks when you've collected every floppy disk, and the second you can unlock by entering the password Flynn Taggart. Flynn Taggart, who, according to the Doom Wiki, is the protagonist from the Doom novels. Nice touch. This is what I mean when I say Doom Eternal relishes in being a video game. Everything that's here is here because it's fun or cool. No other reason. From the moment-to-moment gameplay to the downtime between missions, it's all just for fun. On the surface, this seems obvious. It's a video game, Zach. Of course it's supposed to be fun. But I don't think it's something you can truly understand until you've experienced it for yourself. Let me ask you this. How many times have you played a game and thought to yourself, man, it would be really cool if they did this or added that? Why didn't they do it? Boy oh boy, this game is great, but I really wish this feature was a thing. Look, hindsight will always be 20/20, but it feels great to notice all the small details that didn't have to be there in the first place. Things that just make the game fun to play, fun to look at, fun to live in. It makes it feel special and like a labor of love. The Fortress of Doom is host to a plethora of other Easter eggs as well, like this reference to Markiplier's father, which was a really wholesome addition, but there's one more that really stands out to me. This is the Unmaker, a reference to a weapon from Doom 64. The Unmaker is only obtainable once you've completed the 6 Slayer gates hidden throughout the campaign. What are Slayer gates, you ask? Well, they're secret encounters that you can only play by first finding the correct Slayer key within the level. Find the key, open the gate, and you get teleported to a new arena where you'll be put on trial for witchcraft and promptly stoned with hellfire. These can get so intense that on your first playthrough, you'll see demons you haven't even encountered yet in the main campaign in those gates. The Slayer gates don't care though. Now, if you complete the gate, you will be awarded with an Empyrean key, Get all 6 Empyrean keys and you can claim the Unmaker for yourself. Slayer gates are some of my favorite content in the game, hands down, and I recommend everybody tries them out. As for the Unmaker, it is a very powerful fully automatic weapon that destroys anything it touches. The only problem is it shares ammo with the BFG, and for the amount of ammo given, you either need to be really careful, or you're just better off using the BFG instead. Really depends on the scenario, but still, an awesome weapon nonetheless. The next thing I want to touch on is the story, because contrary to what I may have said earlier, Doom does have a story, but it exists in 2 ways. At a surface level, you can boil it down to my summary from earlier. Demons bad, demons invade, kill demons to save the earth, bing bang boom. If you don't care about anything else, you can skip every cutscene and just play the game with that understanding, and you'll still enjoy yourself. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Doom Eternal has a massive amount of lore to immerse yourself in. The plot continues from the story of Doom 2016 and even connects all of the previous games together. From the Night Sentinels to the Makers and Demons of Hell themselves, there are codex entries spread throughout the entire game for you to collect and read if you want. The pace of the story is completely in your hands, which, for a game with such a massive focus on fast-paced combat, this is probably the best way to satisfy both crowds in my opinion. You want the story and massive world building and badass lore? Read as much as you want. You want to ignore that and just kill demons? That works too. The best part is, everything I have just mentioned over the past 2,800 words is all within the base campaign. I never told you about the master levels that restructure certain missions into a brutal experience to test your skill and reward you. I never mentioned the PvP battle mode where you can take control of the very demons you've been fighting to kill another Doomslayer, or the horde mode and seasonal cosmetics you can earn just from playing the game. I haven't explained the pure joy and terror of playing through both DLCs, which offer 2 shorter campaigns that curate an in-game experience for the player where you literally end up fighting the Dark Lord himself. And I also haven't mentioned the life-changing experience that is the soundtrack to Doom Eternal, which this far into the video is probably insane to some of you, but the soundtrack to Doom is just as praised, if not more so, than the game itself. You see this man? This is Mick Gordon. When he was brought on to help create the soundtrack for Doom 2016, originally, the team didn't want any guitars involved. You know, for the game series known for killing demons and having songs which basically copied some of the greatest metal bands known to man, Mick said screw that noise, literally, and promptly created a soundtrack so intense and unique with guitar and synth sounds you'd only dreamed of before that it spawned its own subgenre of metal. I'm not even kidding, it's called Argent Metal and it's real. Look, I'm over-exaggerating just a bit about how it all went down, but Mick did this fantastic conference about it at GDC 2017, discussing how the whole thing was made in excruciating detail, and I highly recommend giving it a watch. He proceeded to do it again for Doom Eternal, but this time even more intense and more crazy, with the majority of songs all having different levels of intensity, based on what was happening in the game. Light fighting, medium fighting, and heavy fighting. The more intense your gameplay got, the music promptly followed suit. I cannot praise this soundtrack enough, and it could easily warrant its own multi-hour long breakdown video. However, there is one unfortunate side to this story I haven't brought up yet. Something where, if you're familiar with the game, you already know what I'm about to say. It involves the controversy surrounding the soundtrack. Can't make a Doom Eternal video without mentioning it, but stick with me because there is something important I want to say at the end of it all. If you've been out of the loop, when Doom Eternal launched, a lot of issues came out about the soundtrack, particularly about its quality, the mixing and editing, that sort of thing. It ultimately culminated in a statement issued by Mick Gordon in late 2022, accusing certain individuals at id Software and Bethesda of horrendous treatment during his Eternal contract, as well as them using double the amount of music they paid for. From horrendous communication and unrealistic expectations to not even paying the man on time and using him as a scapegoat for the public's rage, it's bad. If you want the specifics and a far more detailed account, please, I encourage you to read it for yourself or watch someone else's video on it. It is far too involved to discuss here, but from everything I've seen, and there's some pretty damning evidence in that statement, Mick got fucked over. Now, I wasn't there, I can't say for certain, but from everything that's been shown, it seems pretty cut and dry. But there hasn't been any new updates on it since November 2022, and I don't think we'll see any more news ever again. Now, why did I bring this up? Such a somber note after all the praise I've given. For a few reasons, actually. For starters, I don't think it would have been fair not to bring it up. It's just an incredibly sad thing that happened. It goes beyond any sort of anger I might have felt previously, and just makes me feel sorry that it had to be that way. But my second reason is that despite the nature of what happened, the rest of the team at id Software still made one hell of a game. Their blood, sweat, and tears shouldn't be discounted for the misdeeds of a few. They still pulled through and made an amazing game that should be celebrated, despite the stain of this incident. Don't believe me? Well, the guy who got screwed over thinks so too. In an industry that has just as many blunders as it does success stories, I think it's important to give credit where it's due and celebrate the triumphs we do get. Perhaps I'm not putting it into the best words, and maybe you even think what I'm saying is silly, and that's fair, but from one creator to another, to see something that so many people clearly poured their hearts into, and others even suffered to create, to see it marred by a tragedy like this, it just hurts. None of them deserve that. The game doesn't deserve that. And the game is honestly just so much fun to play that it hits home even harder. Booting up Doom Eternal is always a feel-good experience, much like eating junk food or indulging in any sort of simple pleasure. And that, in my opinion, is what it means to be a video game. Sometimes the simple things really are the most impactful. Sometimes it's just fun to see a group of people band together to make something cool and not worry about anything else. That is all the time I have for today. If you made it this far, I wanted to thank you so much for watching. The feedback and just reactions and sentiment that I got on the Breath of the Wild video a couple weeks ago has been absolutely insane. I was flabbergasted, and I really hope that we can keep this momentum going and that I can make more, quality content for you. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Seriously, let's get that engagement up. It also motivates me and helps me feel better. And, think about joining the Discord. Just made it the other day. It's like a combo Discord for both of my YouTube channels, and I'm going to have the link for that in the description. If you want to have fun or just chill or, keep up with what I'm doing, come on over. But with that being said, I think I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.